Mira, congratulations on an excellent presentation. And I know you really dove into the deep end with this project. And thank you, Shiya, for your support. I know understanding, even at a high level, the genetic piece without having high school biology yet is definitely challenging, and you have met that challenge. So congratulations, Mira. I just wanted to congratulate both of you, and also just to ask some questions and hopefully get a little bit more of a sense of the project that you guys both engaged in, and also the process. A lot of Get Magic is about, of course, building technical skills and connecting amazing mentors with mentees. And it's so much of a celebration of the final product and what you've worked on, but also the process, the little bumps along the road. And I know, being a graduate student for me, that's really where I met most of my major obstacles. And I wish in high school that I had had the opportunity to sort of be able to have a mentor help me through some of these obstacles. So I had some questions, Mira. So in the beginning, you started talking about your interest in dogs and math, and you definitely had a lot of data. So it sounded like you kind of did a meta-analysis looking at, I think I have in my notes here, hundreds of thousands of dogs. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100,000 dogs, over 152 breeds, I think.
Yeah, so what really impressed me is that, for those of us in research, we know that every field has a lot of data. It doesn't matter what field you're in. And so it's interesting that you were able to build on the skill of sort of collecting the data, organizing the data. You mentioned that you used Excel for that. Is that correct? Yeah. And so how do you feel about sort of taking lots of data, organizing it, thinking about analysis, and maybe sort of in the future, maybe taking statistics classes, which we have at Menlo and are just so important, not only for biology, but really for any field that you decide to pursue in the future?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd never done anything like that before. So it was at first very overwhelming, but with Shia's help, I kind of learned how to use Excel and kind of learned how to tackle that large data.
You were talking about tackling the big data and organizing it.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool, like to see the process and the experience, and it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. So I think I would definitely study more statistical kind of things in the future.
Shiya, how was it for you to be on the mentoring and trying to help support Mira in her swimming in the deep end of the pool?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit challenging in the beginning because there are a lot of difficult concepts for Mira to really understand. And also some of the time it's like reading some articles, reading a literature, which can be hard even for us trained in the field. So I think it's definitely a very big challenge for Mira as well. I think, so we've kind of discussed how to just read the figures in the paper instead of the actual context, so that you can get more visualized understanding. And also like we find this data sets that are available online, and it is in an Excel sheet format because it's based on a publication. So the data is quite formatted very well, which help us to get started easily. So I think that definitely helps, but I think there are a lot of things that we could potentially explore with that data set. So if Mira has interest in future, she could also look into that.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you highlighted the point about literature. And oftentimes if you read primary research, that sometimes I want to, take my students to, it's hard. It's a lot to read. And especially if you don't have any exposure to the field, under reading and understanding procedure, I mean, it's hard to even understand it, let alone be critical of it. But, as a previous researcher, definitely starting with the figures is always good, like conceptually understanding what they've tackled in the paper. And so Mira, I think you're going to get a jump start are, again, not only in bio, but I think if you also decide to take any sort of advanced science electives, that these skills will help you, not only the data organization and analysis piece, but also being able to read and at some level interpret primary literature is amazing. I guess I have one more question, and that would be, if you were to give some advice to yourself, Mira, if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice before you started the program, sort of what sort of advice would you give yourself? And that would maybe, you know, generalized advice you'd give to future Get Magic mentees.
I guess I kind of went into the project with like so many different ideas, which I think is good, but at the same time, I think kind of having more specific projects in mind and maybe a little bit less would have been a little bit easier in the beginning. And then, I don't know, I got like kind of when we were kind of diving into harder and more in-depth research, I was getting pretty frustrated because I didn't understand any of it. So kind of maybe, I don't know, slowing down and like just like acknowledging that it's something that I've never done before, and like I'm not going to understand all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most mentees sort of reflect on that they had all these ideas going in, and we obviously want to encourage lots of ideas. And then part of the actual project is to scope out the work. What can I actually do given my current understanding, who my mentor is, where my interests lie, and how much time I have to commit? This is sort of anything that we, you know, set our time and passion towards. You have to sort of scope out what that's going to look like, and that's definitely can be a slow, can feel slow in the beginning, but it's definitely part of the experience. And the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable. Like, oh, I know I have all these ideas, and I'm going to only be able to get to this one thing. But doing that allows for me to learn so many things. So, and I like your comment about being a little bit more patient with yourself, sort of having a meta moment where you appreciate and understand that, okay, I'm not supposed to get this the first go around. And actually people in the field, even when we read papers in our own fields, we still have to struggle and wade through it. So I'm really impressed by sort of your go-gettedness in doing this project, and loved hearing about sort of where you were able to take the project. If you were to continue with the project, what areas would excite you the most? Is it sort of diving back into the data? Would it be to maybe think about how you would communicate your findings, maybe to potential breeders, that aspect of it?
I think diving into the data would probably be the most fun. Like in the presentation, I showed how I calculated the inbreeding coefficient or like how I did the data for golden retrievers and Akitas. And I think diving into more dog breeds and more diseases would be kind of cool, and kind of learning the significance behind why some dog breeds and diseases have higher inbreeding coefficients, and like how that can be helped and stuff like that.
And for some of the diseases, did you look at the frequency of the sort of recessive alleles in those populations? That was part of the percentage. And so it was a little bit quick for me. So you were showing, I think on one slide, and I don't have access to the slides right now, but you showed something that seemed to me to be a low percentage as far as the allele frequency. Did you have data to compare that to, like to other breeds? Comparatively it was higher, or that just given that it was a recessive allele that it was higher than you would have expected?
I think, well, one, that would probably be part of the further research, just because I didn't really have anything to compare it to. So kind of looking at the significance of that, but then also, yeah, because it was a recessive gene, we kind of thought that was a little bit higher than
you would have expected. Yeah. Well, incredible. Thank you so much, Shiya, for supporting this work. And Mira, I'm glad that you decided to join the Get Magic program. And oftentimes, the really exciting thing about being part of this program is, of course, you know, being part of it, and now we're celebrating what you've done. but also you'll find in the coming months and years that you'll reference what you've done, whether it's sort of looking at data in Excel and you'll say, oh yeah, now that sort of makes sense for me that I organized that data in that way and I didn't really quite get it why I did it, but now I do. Or from the biology perspective, like, you know, when you talk about genetics, you'll start to really understand like, oh, this is what the Punnett square is showing me, and this is what it means to be, you know, autosomal or sex-linked traits. You'll be covering that next year. So it'll just give you a lot more context. So I think it'll be really fun. The hard work that you've put in will definitely pay off, and you'll have these sort of aha moments in the coming months and years. So thank you to you both for joining us today. It's definitely a different format to be on Zoom, but I think it's worked well, and it's been great connecting with you both.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope that Mira enjoy her study, like learning lifetime. And also if you have any questions or you find something, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to meet again, or we can also have Zoom meetings, or in future we can have our virtual, like real meetings later. And yeah, I really hope that you enjoy this experience and find math and science and biology interesting to you. Yeah.
For sure.
Thank
Thank you so much for helping me through these months.
You're welcome. Yeah.